Hi, I'm Rachelle with Originally Worn, and welcome to my hot and sweaty garage spray booth. Today I'm going to be showing you how to spray Annie Sloan Chalk Paint with the Wagner Home Decor Paint Sprayer. It is a really inexpensive paint sprayer that is made specifically for decorative paints. Of course, I'm using Annie Sloan Chalk Paint because it is the original and best chalk paint, but you can use any brand that you like. Spraying paint can be really messy, so first you're going to need to prep your space. I've kind of walled off my garage a little bit, but they also make really great spray booths. I will put a link to one of those in the comments or in the description below. Also, I'll put a link to this home decor sprayer in the description below. For otherwise, you're going to need to cover your floor. Mine is covered with a drop cloth, and this right here is actually a work table that I've thrown a sheet over, but anything would work. And I also have, besides the actual spray thing, a Lazy Susan, and then something to set your door on. This is the reason why, is because as you're spraying and spinning your Lazy Susan, you're gonna get like extra paint right here, and then you take this door off and put the next one on, that wet, thick paint is gonna get on your next door. So the paint really never gets on this surface. It's kind of like just a ghetto rigged up tier thing that works really well. Oh, sorry for my dog. We're outside today and it's a little bit crazy. So next I'm gonna show you how I prepped the cabinet doors. This is the cabinet door I'm going to be working on. To clean it, I took Scotch-Brite pads and a mixture of hot water, Dawn dish soap, and vinegar, and I just really scrubbed them clean. This is actually from a commercial facility, and so they were pretty grimy and gross, but even anyone's cabinet in their own home gets pretty gross. So you clean them up, and then I actually wiped them down with a mixture of 50-50 water and denatured alcohol. That kind of really got any of the cleaner residue off of it. Then I let them dry on my cabinet dryer rack here overnight. So now that you have your cabinet doors prepped, let me talk to you about the actual sprayer. So this is kind of the motor part of the sprayer, and of course you just plug it in, and the air hose attaches right here. You can see mine has been well used and loved with paint colors. There is two sides to the air hose, the smaller size and the bigger size. The smaller size hooks right into the machine like that. And then you'll set this aside for a minute. There is all of my parts here in my container. This is what actually holds your paint. And on there, see if you can see it in there, there are measurements. That really tells you how to fill your paint. You're gonna wanna do like 450 milliliters of paint to then add another 50 milliliters up to this 500 mark of hot water. The hot really makes a difference. I don't know why really. And then you'll stir it and mix it in there. But more importantly, I'll show you when we do get to that mixing part, because after you fill this up once, you really can't see these lines. I'll show you the consistency that it needs to be to spray well, because too thin and it won't adhere well, and too thick and it like orange peel goops everywhere. It's a little bit fussy. So here is how your gun kind of comes. This little red ring does pop off of there, and you need to slide it back on there. Kind of ridge side. See how it has that ridge out? Your next part is actually this black nozzle thing, and you can kind of push this in, and there are ridges in the black nozzle. Let's see if you can even see them on there, that line up with this ridge right here at the bottom. So you match them up, and if you push your trigger in at the same time you push that on, you won't break any part of this. Be careful, it is easy to break. And then you can let go of your trigger. The next piece you have kind of determines how the airflow hits, so how your paint comes out. So you stick that right on top, And then this is how you tighten everything together. And I'll show you about the adjustments to this in a minute here. And then this pops into this part. I like to pop mine with this part of this hose. So when your cup goes on there and I spray a lot on a table like this, that is feeding this way. Now, if you're spraying up like this, you need to spin that direction so it feeds from your very little bit of paint down here. Couple things to note. There is a teeny little hole right there. That's how the air intakes into the sprayer. That cannot get filled with paint. It'll jack it all up. So if you're having issues, check that. You know, put a little toothpick through it. I haven't had that issue in all the times I've sprayed, but I have seen that on a lot of forums about it. Okay, now we're gonna do the most important part, which is actually mixing the paint. I'm using an Annie Sloan Honfluer for my first layer because I am doing a faux dark wood finish on these cabinets. So I pop this guy open, and you're gonna wanna give this paint a quick couple stirs. Now I'm gonna dump in to, like I said, the 450 mark right there, milliliter mark. But I'll show you the consistency here, because in a second you won't be able to tell where you're filling. Start to go slower, because all of a sudden you'll overfill it. You don't want to overfill it because it'll also go in that air pump. Alrighty, so we have 450 milliliters of paint in there. And then I'm gonna add another 50 milliliters of hot water. And the same is go slow, because all of a sudden you can overflow, or at least overfill. You're probably not gonna overflow it. Now really stir this together here. You have to incorporate it into one. And because you can't get air in that part of the gun, or get paint in that part of the air gun, you really just need to stir it. You can't like put the lid on it and shake it well. Now you could mix this up in a different container and then shake it and anything like that, but it just takes no time to give it a bit of a mix. And what you're gonna be looking for is something that when we'll let it settle down here in a minute. After you've mixed it up, if you can draw your initial in the top of the paint and then it disappears in about a second or two, that's a good consistency. If it stays in the top there, it's too thick. If it doesn't hold, then it's too thin. So let's see if we're mixed up by now. And hopefully, I'll check it. Yep, it is perfect. I'll see if I can get it in the camera here for you for what I'm talking about. See how I can draw something in there and it stays for like a second or two? Hopefully you can see that in that dark area. Then I kind of clean up my cap. Sometimes I do this with a rag. Of course, I just wipe paint all over myself. I don't really care. I have my paint mixed up to the right consistency. I have my gun, and I will stick it on top. And remember, you don't want to like tip this a ton because you don't want air to go in there. And then I will just start to spray, or not start to spray, I will start to spray. Tighten that on there. You have your gun. And then you take the bigger part of your hose and you push it in there tight. Now here that you have your gun all filled, I'll tell you about a couple adjustments. This right here is a dial. It goes from the least amount of paint flow coming out to the most, and it's got lines that say like 4, 3, or that amount of lines. I usually like to keep mine on about a 2 line here. And then this is an important part. So this right here, you loosen this and you can spin this in different directions. Across, like a angled direction, means you're gonna get a circular kind of spray pattern. That works great for spindles. I actually like that for cabinet doors too, because they're small enough. It doesn't work great for like walls or sides of a large pantry, stuff like that. If you put it like that, horizontal, then you tighten this down. Basically, air is gonna shoot out like that, and it's gonna make you have a long up and down spray pattern, and so that's when you would go from side to side with your spray gun. But you can't like have it that direction and then switch like spraying in a different direction. It'll make the paint all funny. And then this way, with a vertical of your white part there, it's gonna give you a flat horizontal paint, and you spray like this then. For cabinet doors, like I said, I like to do an angle. It doesn't matter if you angle this way or if you angle that way. It's just spraying it at an angle. So get your angle, and then you tighten this black thing down. Since the motor of this gets pretty loud, I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do first, and then I'm gonna show you. So here we have the back of a cabinet door. I always start backs of doors, whether I'm spraying or brushing, because I go back, front, on the coats of paint. So you can end on your front and hopefully have the least amount of imperfections on there. I, like I said, like to put mine at the angle right here and on a 2. Now when you first turn this on, hit like either a piece of cardboard or a sheet or something like that to kind of know that your spray pattern is right. I like to use, or I like it to look like a thin, fine spray paint that's coming out, so you can sweep with even motions, not like hang out in one place really long, but also so it doesn't spray like goobers everywhere like a crazy orange peel. Then you'll see that I'm gonna kind of start right here, and I'll go from this direction and this first ridge in here, because you really have to go and direct your spray where you want it, and work up and down, and I'll spin it on my Lazy Susan and do each like of the edges and each of the ridges as I go. To adjust this batch a little bit down to like 3 on this back thing. It was kind of coming out a little thick and orange peely. Let me see if I can tip this without getting my fingers on it, and you can kind of see what the texture looks like. It's a wee bit splotchy, but I promise you it'll dry flat. Annie Sloan isn't a self-leveling paint, but if you do use a self-leveling paint, it'll really just kind of even out. But that's what the door looks like, and I will keep going. I'll stick it back on my paint rack, which, by the way, was the best thing I ever built for cabinet doors. Just PVC pipe and 2x4s. Grab the next door, flip it to the back, and go again. So there you have it. I'm gonna keep spraying all the backs and then the fronts when the backs are dry, and then do another layer of the backs and fronts, and then put my top coat on. Of course, then I'm gonna do the bases in the actual facility or the home. To get those to kind of match the spray texture, I'm gonna brush them on, and then I'll take a foam brush and kind of go over it with that. It seems to match the texture enough that you can't tell one is sprayed and one isn't. You can spray inside a home too. It just takes a lot of prep work to kind of tape off the area, because this stuff does go everywhere. I hope you guys have fun with this. I hope it helps. I like to spray, of course, You don't need to use this just on cabinets. I do this on dressers, dining room chairs especially. I hate hand painting dining room chairs. This works great. Really anything, you can spray pretty fast and get it done. So, hope you guys have a good day. Hope you're not as sweaty as I am right now. And happy painting! A little added side note about spraying. I like to clean my gun out when I'm done with every layer, even if I'm just gonna go back to it in a couple hours, because I don't want anything to dry in there. So I have it just in my sink here, and I'm gonna wash it out with hot soap and water. Take all the parts apart, and then they have a little scrubby thing that you scrub it all with. If you're gonna do it again in a minute, you know, you don't really have to go really hardcore cleaning it. There is also a method of cleaning it out by filling this with clean water and then spraying the clean water through. I do that before I store it for good. But right now I'm just gonna wash it out and wait till I can do the next layer. Thanks. Oh, and if you need to, be sure to find us online at originallywornonline.com or on Facebook or Instagram under Originally Worn, and be sure to subscribe below.